they deal with turn 8 when they run down there side by side. Coulthard, cool move.
That was a nice manoeuvre.
There's trouble at the back of the pack, big trouble. And I think it's Will Davison in the Woodstock entry. He's made contact down there, heavy contact, and that car's got big damage. So we were focused on the leaders. Here's Will. What a disappointing start. It's a margin now in favour of Coulthard. So an awkward run out of turn 7 for Van Gisbergen, who rotated on that corner yesterday. In the Penrite entry. Now, this is the explanation as to what happened with Will. And so he's gone in very hard there at turn 8 on in relative terms, a cold tyre. May have also had a helping hand there. There'll be more to the story, no doubt. More replays down here. Oh yeah, it was more to the story, all right. So it was Todd Kelly and Will Davison. I didn't catch the other car, but that was 3 wide into turn 8. So that's not part of the Queensbury rules.
I think it's Moffat. I think it was Moffat. So we just said about the way that Fabian Coulthard and Shane Van Gisbergen approached turn 8, but there were 3 guys involved in that.
Didn't see the inside car, but I think Todd Kelly was the middle car, Rihanna.
Will Davison, I think you just had a chance to see the replay. Looked pretty nasty heading into turn 8.
Yeah, I know what happened. So, yeah, I didn't know someone was next to Todd. I was just next to Todd, knowing I was just about to back out and give him right away into turn 8. Just I'm on the far left there, and next thing his car's just come across the front of me, and I noticed he had someone squeezing him on the inside of him. So I was just about to tuck him behind Todd, and yeah, 3 wide into 8 not on wheels. So anyway.
Tough way to start the season with a new sponsor on board. We'll see you out there tomorrow.
Absolutely, cheers.
This is a pretty wild battle pack, and look at this. Down the inside goes Jamie, and he tags him. He's tagged him and turned him. 180-degree spin for Winterbottom at turn 5.
Whincup will be in a bit of strife for that one, I think. I need to see another view just to see how far he got up there.
Brendan Hogan, engineer, new partnership.
Behind 18.
He crisscrossed him, and he went for the shallow dive at turn 5, Jamie Whincup.
But when
Your wheels are done, we're waiting on fuel, mate.
Mark Winterbottom turned in, he wouldn't have known where Jamie was. And often, when you pop out of the mirror like that, it's very hard to understand where the other car is. I'm just not sure whether Mark Winterbottom turned right down to the apex or he left him some room. So we'll just have to have a look at that. So,
and sportsmanship flag the car 5 over use of the turn 2 curbs.
Where does Rick come out? He's going to come out in front of Craig Lowndes. So that's going to put Rick Kelly into 7th position.
It's been a great run, hasn't it?
A lot of fuel coming out of that car as he first turned in. Not now. That's sealed up now. That's fine. So try to work out just how far up alongside Whincup was. He was going to dive at the right-hander, and then he chose to go down to the left. Now, Frosty wouldn't know where he is. Now, does Frosty turn right in? No, he doesn't turn right in. Here it is. Yeah, no, he's hidden behind the beeper. I think Jamie's actually in a bit of strife with that one.
Bad sportsmanship flag, the car 88 over use of the curbs at turn 2.
So
It's better from that angle. It looks like he's further up.
all the different angles. It might be one that ends up being looked at later. Interesting, both 5 and 88, both getting bad sportsmanship flags, both at a time when they've got other things to worry about for overusing the curb at turn 2. So here we are on board with Frosty. Rotates. He's lucky he didn't get cleaned up by someone who's exiting a blind corner there. Here it is again from the Red Rooster chopper cam. So little crisscross. Jamie dives down the inside, has to mount the curb because the gap diminishes. Only 3/4 of a car width there, and we stop it. I mean, it's right in the middle of the car. Very difficult to call those, and it depends on which side you're on. You know, if you're in one squad, you've got a polarised view, and the same on the other side as well. One of the things that in Rule 8.4 in the sporting code this year is that they've decided that unless someone is wholly to blame and it becomes obvious, then they'd rather investigate it later when there's data available and you can look at the proper onboard camera views as well. So it might be something that gets deferred.
I'm with the team boss at ProDrive, Tim Edwards, who had a good close look at all those replays as they unfolded. Have you got a view on that?
Yeah, I'm disappointed. That's my view. it'd be interesting to see. You know, they've obviously done a lot of work on the judicial system, and so, you know, it's a good test case for them now to work through it.
Okay. Tim Edwards.
And there's the bad sportsmanship flag being displayed to Chaz Mostert. We'll work out for you later on as to how many of those guys have either had that shown to them or they've had to do a tour at the pit lane. There's another one now, car 17 at Scott McLaughlin. So you don't need a drive-through at that point of the race. Scott McLaughlin is in 17th position. It's Todd Kelly with more material hanging off the back of the Altima. Yeah, they put race tape on it last time, but obviously hasn't held it sufficiently.
I understand it's been 10 bad sportsmanship flags so far for curb overuse down at turn 2.
Thanks for filling that gap in for me. I started the story. I can always rely on you.
Well, you finished mine yesterday with percentages when we were doing a maths exercise, so I felt like I should return serve in a nice way.
Thank you.
Now, this pressure between these two has just eased a little bit, hasn't it, in the recent past? The battle between Coulthard and Courtney. Spare a thought for these guys. They have been at it now for a very large chunk of time. We've been racing for 1 hour, 44 minutes and 15 seconds. A long time out there. And every position counts. Super Slow-Mo's Simona Di Silvestro at 1. She's grabbing a bit of the tyre bundle here, and it's ripped the composite guard off. I made mention of before that it's on the front and the rear of these cars, and she'll get home, but there's bits everywhere. We'll be super careful through 8 because it's not going to turn or steer terribly well. Headlight is the worry there. Race controller in my ear as I speak, monitoring the comment coming off turn 7. Oh, in the wall. So I think that may have been Percat.
Yeah, you're right.
And he's whacked it so hard he's had to go down the escape road. So he gave it a fair thump. Waiting for the rest of the field to clear the racetrack. Cold tyres, big commitment at turn 8, and he's run out of road. And look at this, McLaughlin seeking the lead on his teammate. Big gap back to Van Gisbergen. And he's stationary on the exit of 9, so he's given that a real belting, Nick Percat. Sourced up with his foot in the bucket and kept going.
This is Nick Percat. So there's Nick, and he's in behind Courtney, and on the opening lap, it's very easy to do. Tander and Waters were very close to doing the same thing.
Well, I think Tander actually did give it a rub. The left rear corner of that car, which was Tander, gave it a rub. So here's another angle, so that's pretty substantial contact. So threw a bit of rubbish up as well. This is with Frosty.
That's Tander.
Actually, yes, so Garth's is more than a kiss. That's a fair rattle. So almost 3 of us. And he might still get a whack from upstairs.
That's what happens when you're the pioneer. When you're doing it, he's in. That's a massive crash there for Tander. He's spun. That's Rick Kelly involved. Tim Blanchard, Moffat, they're all involved. Have a look at this. This will be red flagged. That is a massive crash.
Red flag. All cars are to stop on the grid in order, please. In their current order, all cars to stop on the grid with caution, please.
Di Silvestro, Rouleau, Moffat, Pye, Blanchard, Tander, Percat, Rouleau, I mentioned. My goodness me. That
11 cars.
is a staggering scene in Tasmania. And there's another Brad Jones car in there. After the difficult day they've had, Rick Kelly, massive damage on that car. That's Will Davison. That's decimated.
That is huge.
1/3 of the field.
The damage on the back of Courtney's car. Both the Mobil 1 HSV cars are involved. Both of the Gary Rogers cars are involved.
It's a car park at Simmons Plains.
It's Taz Douglas just walking towards
That's
the front of, I think that's Courtney's car that's back there. Wow.
Scafey, you did the count. I think you said 11 cars. Correct?
Yeah.
That's more than $5 million worth of racing cars sitting there. and most of them look like they're in a pile of trouble technically. There's a huge amount of damage out there. Early indications from the shots that we're seeing are that everybody looks as though they've been able to get out.
Well, I didn't see Courtney. Did Courtney get out? Yes, he has. That looked like the damage to the right-hand rear.
So for the first time in the recent past, this man's outfit managed to get through unscathed. So Charlie's been in every war there's been recently. Charlie Schwerkolt, Preston Hire Racing, Lee Holdsworth. So the field's got back. Look at this damage.
These are terrible scenes, folks. This is not what we like to see in this game. This is a car park of the very best cars and drivers. And it looked like someone was to the left of Tander, and that's how it started. They'd come out of turn 3. There's Percat with his arms out. Young Alex Rullo is the youngest man in the field, pucked in behind there. Tim Blanchard. And I honestly don't know how it originated, but definitely Tander got bumped from the left, and when he fired into the guardrail, then it just all unfolded from there.
So I think the last one in the unscathed pack was Caruso.
That's right. Yes.
So that's 14 cars back at the grids. So Taz Douglas was the other car from Lucas Dumbrell Motorsport. That's Taz just in front of car number 3 with the right front corner hanging off that. And Scafie's just counting up cars here at the moment. Unprecedented scenes, and that...
Sorry, it's 12 cars.
12 cars.
Not 11. Yeah.
So that's, we're looking at the rear of Will Davison's car there, and we're looking from James Courtney's car.
Will Davison looks the guy that's been most affected. Beautiful start here by Chaz Mostert, got away. Well, now that's still under investigation.
Yeah, possibly too good. So it's hard to tell because we don't see the light reference there, but they're looking at that. But that's the least of everybody's problems at the moment. So he skips away. And usually the trouble here is on the opening lap, either here at turn 2 or down at the hairpin. So looking across, McLaughlin went absolutely nowhere, but it might be that it was Chaz that bolted, but it sounded like it bogged down as well, which I reckon it did when you look at Van Gisbergen getting by.
Comes a wheel spin. Listen to the wheel spin. And then we'll probably try to find another couple of cars for the visibility because this isn't too bad.
Well, when you're up the sharp end, it's not too bad. But those that I made reference to that are down the order, they were just in a cloud, a murky cloud. Then we saw Mostert come unglued down here at turn 2, just as we've made reference to the problem for him being under investigation. He's understeered wide, went out into the gravel, and that's probably upset the natural order as he's dropped back in, and everybody has to then skip and move back and gets out of sequence. So I think he went back to 5th or 6th. On board now with Chaz. He's leading the race, crosses the control line, feeds it a couple of gears. This is 1, the little jump, and then 2. Gets caught in the puddle, big understeer, runs wide over the ripple strip. Now he gathers it back. There goes 1, 2, 3, 4. Now he's 5th. David Reynolds. 6th. And here's the crash. Now, I saw Tander tangled up.
Yeah, he was the one definitely tangled up.
The problem is there
it is, just back there. Yeah. So as this emerges now, you watch Tander's the one there. So whoever that was, which was actually Cam Waters was the one that was into Tander, and that's how that started.
And it's a visibility issue. So, and that was monstrous contact that Will Davison had with Rick Kelly. That's the reason why he's hurting, because the seatbelts will have grabbed him. So Will Davison, this is looking from the rear bumper of Garth Tander's car.
That's Nick Percat, so that's a little bump. So they're vying for position, remembering it's really grip limited out of turn 3. So on the other side, there's another car there.
Oh, you got a bump. So
yeah,
you definitely got a bump.
Oh.
Bang, out of business.
And
so let's have a look again. So they're buried in the plume. Tander gets a bump. He tags Rick Kelly, and then it's just a mess. Tim Blanchard, Nick Percat, Will Davison cannons into Rick Kelly. Scott Pye's in there as well. It's like 10-pin bowling. Now let's ride with Will Davison. just be quiet here for a sec. That hurts from this far back.
That is a serious, serious accident.
Another angle. And then it's a question of, I mean, people just can't react. I mean, there's cars flying everywhere. You've got no grip. You can't see. There's metal every which way. Now with Courtney.
So I reckon Courtney was almost, he had it under control and he got back on the throttle, but then he got cannoned from behind.
Yeah, because they couldn't see.
So I think you'll find that young Alex Rouleau might have been the guy who got the back of James, but the most amount of damage by far will be with Rick Kelly's car and Will Davison's car.
There's an ambulance up there as well, so somebody's not feeling too well. I suspect it may be Will Davison from the shock
body
contact, and yeah, just he got out and sat down next to the car. That would have hurt. So that's James Moffat's car number 34, Scott Pye's car number 2. We're looking from the roof of Garth Tander's car number 33. Tim Blanchard, that's a Brad Jones racing car. They've been in the wars, those guys. Unfortunately, car number 21, Cool Drive entry.
Now, you said before about the cars that got through, and you made the point about the Brad Jones cars being part of it. Slade probably had the least amount of damage. He actually trickled through the drama. He sort of got through relatively unscathed, but you got to feel for Gary Rogers Motorsport, because those two cars are effectively new. They've changed the whole business from Volvo to Holden.
And look at the damage on it. Let's get downstairs and understand more about what's going on.
Scott Sinclair. That sound is awful, but Scott Sinclair, you're engineering Michael Caruso this weekend, but usually your natural duties are to overrun this team here at Nissan Motorsport. Rick Kelly's car's just returned and it does not look nice.
No, I think that's the last we'll ever see of that car based on what we've just seen there. So definitely wrong place at the wrong time there. He was out in front of that carnage and just got tapped, and then obviously what happened, but you know, that's part of the business we're in, and we've had a pretty good run recently, but it's obviously come to an end there. So that's a good shame, and hopefully Rick's all right, and all the other guys involved are all right, and no one likes to see that stuff, but you know, we'll see what happens from here.
In terms of timing, we don't have much time. Obviously Easter break next weekend, then we head to Phillip Island. What does your workshop look like in terms of spare cars?
Well, it's going to be busy now, and we're currently building a spare, which you know, we'll have to assess all the options. It's probably too early to make a call there, but there's going to be a fair bit of work on, I can guarantee that.
Yeah, tough break for you guys. Thanks, Scott.
Thanks, Rana.
In addition to this massive incident, there may potentially be another story here, and it involves the pole sitter, Scott McLaughlin. Now, he is sitting, guys, just outside your commentary box at pit exit. He's come into the lane, and I've just seen Ryan Story and Ben Croak from the team hurriedly go to Frank Adamson about midway through the lane and ask for permission to possibly push that car back in the opposite direction, back down the lane towards the team garage. Now, they're cagey with me at the moment. They won't tell me if there's a problem, and Scotty does not want to talk, but we're keeping an eye on it for you.
So Frank Adamson is the category technical manager, and it would be very interesting as to why he would park the car there and why they'd be asking Frank for special dispensation to bring the car back to the garage. There's clearly something going wrong that we're unaware of. Now that, yeah, I didn't realise who Tander originally made contact with. So Cam Waters, definitely a big part of that. And he got Rick Kelly. But this accident, that one there, the closing speed for Will.
That's, as you heard Scott Sinclair say, most likely KO'd car 15, because that'll have structural damage in the cage now. And you saw Todd Kelly also looking carefully at that car. And there's huge damage on the front of Will Davison's car, so that'll have chassis damage and chassis rail damage, no doubt, cross member and all the rest of it at the front of that car as well. So we're looking from Garth Tander's car, and you cannot see a thing here. And he cops a whack. That was some sort of contact with Cam Waters, and then once cars are spinning every which way, all hell breaks loose.
James Courtney, first and foremost, are you okay?
Yeah, I'm good. The cars aren't looking too flash down there, but Will's out. He's all right, so you don't have to panic. He's just hurt the family jewels a little with the impact, but no, it's sad to. I think a lot of people's weekends are going to be ended now, so it's not the way we wanted it.
From your point of view, it was really difficult in terms of vision for us, so just from your point of view.
Yeah, I saw the accident, so I was stopped. And then, a car behind me, I think it was Taz, didn't see that, the accident and just hit me flat out. So the Commodore's now a cruise. And then it fired me into Will because he'd gone off the fence on the other side and come across. But, yeah, the track was blocked. So I don't know why it happened, but, there was plenty going on.
So you think you might be out for the weekend?
Yeah, there's a lot of damage to the back of it. So, but the boys are miracle workers. They'll hack into it. Starry will be able to get his gas axe out and start welding stuff, so he'll be happy. But no, we'll press on, see what we can do.
I'm glad you're okay. Thanks, James.
Cheers.
So James almost threaded the needle there, and then he copped a whack from behind, and then it just got worse from there. So the origins of this are very hard to unravel, and there'll obviously be a deep and detailed investigation as to what's gone on. And that is a monstrously damaged Woodstock stock car of the Techno Autosports. That car will be close to throwaway as well. With that sort of damage at the front and then also down in the right rear corner. That's James Courtney's car. We just heard from James with Rihanna. And I'd be real surprised if that doesn't have rail damage at the front.
I think I've called the wrong car with young Alex Rouleau. I think it might have been Taz Douglas who actually made contact with the back of James Courtney.
All right.
That is, yeah. So I'm sorry about that. So that was Taz Douglas, who was coming through on the inside, and he tried to thread the needle with Will Davison. They were on the left-hand side trying to get through, and that was huge impact. They were the two cars that one ran into the back of Courtney, and the other one, Will Davison, made contact with Rick Kelly. But have a look at this. This is like a wrecking yard.
Dodgem cars at the Royal Easter Show. Staggering damage. Calls into focus again, and I mention this every time where I can about the wonderful people that we have that volunteer their time and efforts and their skills to administer these race meetings. So we've got officials out there in the clean-up process, flag marshals, firemen, vehicle recovery. So there's a lot of people that we have to thank for their efforts to try and get this show happening each and every year, and right now back on the road. Let's get down into the pit lane. Just an update on the DJR Team Penske situation. So some decent damage to car 12 of Fabian Coulthard. We'll just see how that one goes at the moment. He's actually out there with the cars on the grid. In relation to the 17, they're a bit reluctant to talk to me. That I've walked away with the impression that maybe Scotty McLaughlin has come back into the lane in error. And if that's the case, I think he will go back out and start this one at the back of the field, guys. They're not going to push it back up the lane now, as I initially talked about. But the suggestion is he may have come in error. I'll try and verify that for you, and that's perhaps why he didn't want to talk to me before. Yeah, well, there was a call on Race Management Channel from the race director, Tim Schenken, asking cars under the red flag to come back and stop on the grid. It was a clear instruction. So somewhere along the line, there's been a breakdown in comms, and that hasn't got through to McLaughlin, by the sound of it, who's come into the pit lane, and that could be a costly error in a battle for a championship when we get towards the back end of the year, where every point counts. What a mess.
That is a mess. That is. We hate to see this level of damage.
To describe it, to understand it. Every now and again we have one of these, and today's the perfect recipe. Bad visibility, I beg your pardon, and wet track. So now whether he was called or whether he made that decision on his own, I don't know, but I certainly heard the call on my radio from the race director instructing all cars to come to the grid and stop.
But what you've got to do, so you can see here, he's bewildered. He's the only one in pit lane, and that's a clear mistake. And there's clearly, as you said, a communications breakdown between the team and Scott. But what it will do is at the point of restart, he's going to have to think about what he does. Look at the damage to the back of the Techno car. That's extraordinary. It's pulled the right-hand side rear corner. right out of the car. And he'll have to think about how he gets onto a slick, because there may be a way of coming through the pit lane, starting from the pit lane and being on a slick tyre may give him a little lifeline, given that there's so many cars damaged and he's going to go back to roughly 15th from the back of the field. So this is just extraordinary scenes, folks. If you're just joining us, this is the accident that was originated with contact with Garth Tander, who spun and made contact with Rick Kelly. Rick Kelly then...
There's a couple of cars that barreled in there at pretty high speed. Others had already recognised the problem.
This is Will. This is big. This is big. This is down there. And watch this. Bang. Ooh.
Now, this is also when we do eventually go racing, an event governed by time certainty. So local time 39 minutes past the hour. We're riding with Courtney here, who sort of looks like he gets away with it, and then he gets a big whack from behind, and then once all that happens, he's in plenty of trouble. So here's another angle, looking from up near the back straight at this cluster of cars that just all end up jamming into each other at high speed. In dry conditions, the run down to that hairpin is 245 kilometres an hour at peak speed. Now, the wet track and everyone greasing their way out of turn 3, it won't quite be that today, but it'll still be north of 200 kilometres an hour, well north of 200 kilometres an hour.
For sure.
And out of all those cars that are sitting there at the moment, 3 of them are the Brad Jones Racing triple, and Nick Percat is with me. Mate, just give us a quickly synopsis on what you've seen on your car damage-wise.
Touch wood, I think for the first time this year we've come out of it all right. Obviously it's not ideal. My biggest hit was actually from Blanchard in the side, but I think it's kind of squashed the doors. The front seemed all right, it might have held the radiator, but I kind of put my head out and then got back in and started up and tried to drive back. All wheels were pointing the right direction. Nothing was hanging out of it, but then the coolant pressure came on, so I had to switch it off. But crazy. I don't know what to say for the BJR crew. Obviously we've had Macaulay's car destroyed today, Jack Smith's, our 3 main game cars, my car at Grand Prix. I don't know what these guys and girls need to do to take a trick at the moment. And then last year with Bathurst in New Zealand, it's not ideal, but for me, there it is. Hopefully, you know, Will Davo's all right. He looked like he's in a bit of pain. I know myself, Slady and Blanchard, we're all right. But yeah, thoughts go for Will. I think he's in a bit of pain and hopefully he's all good.
Just any idea of what you saw happening? I mean, a lot of spray, obviously. It was very, very wet out there still, but hard to work out how it all came together.
For me, I was behind Garth, and then there was a bit of a touch up ahead of him, and then next thing Slady was kind of sideways, and I went to go right, sorry, and then there was a big gap, and then everyone kind of obviously wet track was spinning back across, and I hope that staying down the right-hand side will be all right, but then obviously there's 12 cars to come in, or 10 cars to come in, and a few people haven't seen it and come in pretty hard, but as you can see on the footage, my car's probably a lot better than a few others.
Thanks, buddy. Let's hope we can get this, well, the team can get this repaired and have you out there tomorrow.
No worries. Thank you, mate.
Scott Pye's just walked into the Mobil 1 HSV racing team. We're having a look at some of the vision of car 2. Firstly, are you okay? And just tell us from your point of view how things unfolded there.
Yeah, I'm fine. I think maybe Will Davo's a bit sore. Everyone else I think's okay. Obviously everyone's just getting sent through the medical centre at the moment. But yeah, hopefully everyone's fine. The crash, to be honest, I don't really know. Like, you can't see that much because of the spray. We saw a bit of debris kick up, so the few of us at the back, like myself, James, and I think Holdsworth, just rolled out of it. I went to the right and was just cruising along. Next thing, Garth's come backwards across the track in front of me, and someone must have just been trucking on behind me because they just hit me pretty hard from behind and shoved me into everything. Looks like James got tagged going through, and Holdsworth was the one there that hung right back and got through it. So he's just unlucky for the guys at the back, but there's obviously a massive shunt in front of us and we just got shoved into it.
I know the boys will want to have a closer look at car 2 and assess it. Can you get it back for tomorrow? How confident are you?
Oh, I'm a driver, so I can't really assess anything too well, but I think that, if anything, maybe the front end might be narrowed up a little bit because we were pushed pretty hard between Garth and the concrete wall. from behind, it didn't look like mine was too bad. The parcel shelf and the boot looks okay, so everything else from below that is detachable, and hopefully the boys can get that put together. James' car, having a look at that, the boot in that looks pretty bad, so hopefully, like I said, that parcel shelf and so the back window there, if that's okay, then they should be all right, but who knows till we pull them apart.
We replayed the incident with the Ecole Commodore earlier today. What is it with you in this place, mate?
I know, yeah, James, we're there. I mean, that's a completely separate incident, though. That was a mechanical failure, and I had a bunch of them that year, and I'm not in that place anymore. And this is just an unfortunate event. You know, it's racing, and that happens. But yeah, it's disappointing. There's a lot of cars torn up out there, and hopefully everyone's all right. But you don't want to see that.
Yeah. Most importantly, the cars can be repaired. Good to see you're okay.
Cheers. Thank you, mate.
Scott Pine conversation there with Greg Rust. Have a look at Will Davison's point of view now with the benefit of telemetry. He was already having a big battle on his hands with a lack of grip through turn 7. And check the visibility out as well. I think that's Simona just in front, car number 78. Image. So now McLaughlin's being rolled back. I've just been, while the interviews were taking place, just pondering what's going on there, because we're under race suspension here at the moment. If you've just joined us, been a monstrous accident on lap 2, race 3. The Tyre Power Tasmania Super Sprint. That was the pole sitter who got a tardy start, dropped back a couple of spots. Chaz Mostert got the best start, made a mistake at turn 2, but was under investigation for potentially jumping a start. But second lap, there was contact between several cars in the midfield in a plume of spray, and we think that the total tally of damaged cars that are still out there in some cases is 12, and I just heard Tim Schenken, our race director, say there's still 5 cars to recover. It's coming up to 12, nearly 13 minutes past the hour of 5 o'clock local time here in Tassie, and it's a time certain finish at 39 past the hour. That's Will Davison's car, the Woodstock car. Incredible damage front and rear on that car. And just to put a little bit more of a point on the summary here, McLaughlin, in a moment of confusion, has come into the pit lane, and there was a clear instruction on the race management channel for all the competitors, in accordance with the rules, by the way, in section D, in a suspended race scenario, to go back under the red flag conditions to the grid. So there's been some sort of an issue there where he made a last-minute decision to come into the lane, and now there's also the question mark of how they're going to handle that. Now, you are permitted to come into the lane, by the way. There's no penalty for that. It's just out of whack. But I think what they're trying to do now is see whether or not they can get onto another tyre, and that will actually be that's another question again.
Exactly. So they've confirmed that he will start from the lane, but whether he can put a tyre on or not, we'll get clarification for you. Will Davison's been taken to hospital. That incident had a 12G impact. He's got lower back pain and he was heavily winded. Murph?
James Moffat is back in the lane. His car we can see on screen there, mate. Just it's probably hard to tell, but from your point of view, what does your car look like? What kind of damage is on it?
A lot. Yeah, just obviously a big mess. So can't really make too much judgment on it all because I don't really know what happened, other than the fact that I think I clipped one of the BJR cars and it pulled the left front out of it, and at that point I had no brakes, and then saw Garth sliding sideways across the track, and I got him pretty hard, and then there was a Walkinshaw car getting into me. It was
lots of colours.
Yeah, it sort of felt like we might have been at Parramatta Raceway on a Saturday night for the demo derby. I like watching them on the other side of the fence, though, not being in one.
No, I can understand how difficult was the spray at the start of the race. Obviously, no more rain falling, but a lot of water still on the circuit.
To be honest, it was more the fact that there is a bit of sun now and the glare from that. So I think spray-wise, that wasn't the worst spray conditions I've ever been in. But, yeah, from what I could see, as it looked like the Penske car was maybe squeezing somebody, you know, from where I could see, and then it all was a chain reaction from that point onwards. But, yeah, like I said, won't make any judgment on it until we have a proper look at it. But from our point of view, GRM, there's 2 torn-up cars, which is less than ideal, but a lot of other torn-out cars, and obviously sounds like Will has hurt himself, so that's never ideal, and we never want that to happen, so hopefully he's feeling better quickly.
Glad you're okay though, mate.
Thank you.
James Moffat with Greg Murphy. So under the suspended rules, suspended race rules, by the way, I just want to clean up this issue with Mostert. I'll come back to that other point. So no problem at all for Mostert, just a great start. So you saw the lights off to the right, and Chaz flinches after the lights, so that's been cleaned up. But I think it was so good relative to everybody else, it immediately makes everyone in race control and elsewhere question the validity of the start. There's the back of Chaz and his teammate Cam Waters, so that's all resolved in Jason Bright and Mark Winterbottom there. So all of the Pro Drive Racing Australia drivers all together in a cluster. So under those conditions, out comes the red flag. The race directors instructed everybody to go back to the grid. They go back in the order, and whoever arrives first is effectively the pole, and then they just sit there in the order that they arrived. That's it. That's all there is. However, the slightly weird part of that story is McLaughlin, having gone to the lane, now has to be shuffled to the back of the pack.
As the wrecks continue to flood back in, James Courtney's car's arrived, not looking too sharp. I'm picking your one isn't looking too good either, Gartander. Any sort of, can you shed any light on what went down there?
No, I got no idea, mate. I could see something was happening with Coulthard and Rick, I think it was, and Waters was involved in that. And so I could see all that sort of over to the left, and I sort of stayed tight on the exit of turn 3 and get the run down the outside, and someone's come out and hit me in the rear, and then I'm just sideways, and sideways there is not good because the whole field's coming over here. And then looked like they're talking to Slady in the medical centre. It sounds like there's probably 2 or 3 separate things going on during that. So, but I haven't seen a replay. But yeah, a lot of big hits, and unfortunately Moff had nowhere to go, and one of the big hits was his car into mine. So don't know how bad the car is. We'll have to have a look when it gets back with both cars.
There's a bit of a replay going on. It's hard to see through the spray at the moment, but there was definitely a bit of hip and touch, and that's you. And I think Cam Waters is the one behind you.
Just got hit from behind, and I mean, there was so much going on. I mean, you're not going to blame anyone at this stage until you see all the detail. But yeah, just got hit from behind and sideways, and it stacks on. And this is all, ugly. There's a lot of damaged cars there. It's not cool. But
what do you reckon, having a quick look at your one when you were down there?
Don't know, mate. The sad thing is, I was stuck in it for like 10, 15 minutes. Couldn't get out because there was cars wedged either side. So usually you could get out and have a good look around, but the medicos wanted to drag me out. So there'll be a fair bit of damage. Yeah, that's not cool. But I actually saw Will getting into the ambulance, and he looked like he was a bit winded. So hopefully he's okay.
This is out the back of your car, actually. So it's hard to see. And that sunlight, Moff just said too. You know, was the glare.
That was more turn 6 and 7 than anything else. So. Yeah, so you probably can't even see there's much going on here.
It's difficult, that's for sure. There's a car, it must be on your left-hand side. There's Waters, who looks like he had to prop, didn't it?
Yeah, and I think the whole thing started with the Coulthard-Kelly thing. It looked like they were battling on for half a lap or so, and that sort of propped the whole field. And, you know, cars are pretty on the edge there with grip wires going through 3 in the wet, so it doesn't take much to trip a car up.
Everyone's trying to take advantage too, aren't they?
Yeah, there's a bit of that going on.
Thanks, bud.
I think that's a key point, because it won't be possible to necessarily establish a black hat in all this. When the visibility's so bad and the grip's so limited, there are cars sliding every which way. So there will be a lot of people that have got equity in something like this. It happens in motorsport. Now, McLaughlin's plucking the gloves off here. And we've had confirmation from Cam's race control that there is the strong prospect of us getting back underway with a race once these cars are cleared. There is the positive expectation that that will happen, so we will get a third race underway of sorts. But that's an awful scene. Will Davison has been taken to hospital for observation. He is okay. He's been winded, and as I suggested as soon as I saw that incident, it's the belts that have grabbed him that's hurt him. And he's had a little bit of lower back trouble from time to time over his career. He's been doing lots of specific gym work just to help that recently, and he just told me this morning he'd been feeling pretty good, but unfortunately it will have been aggravated now.
That's Rick Kelly and Coulthard having a bump and got squeezed. That was sort of the start of it. I think that's where people had to
apply the throttle in low gear, and off the road goes Moffat out of the hairpin. So James has had a moment.
Careful now.
It's hugely wet, as you can appreciate, off the racetrack at the moment, because it has been pelting down here earlier in the day.
And
it's more than a puncture.
So more than a puncture. Just check this out. So down the inside, gets a fair hit from Lee Holdsworth, and then another one from Caruso, and then another one from Lee, then, yeah. So that was all going on behind Tander, and Moffat sort of got clumsily caught in the middle.
Well, it was like a cannon on a billiard table, wasn't it? It was just bouncing everywhere. So on board here with Mostert. Watch the lights. He may have flinched, a little bit hard to tell. So riding there with Chaz Mostert, and the possibility that we'll see someone come in. No, they've actually just flashed up a message, no further action. So I reckon there was a flinch and then a stationary moment, then he actually got away cleanly, Mostert. It's a little bit hard to tell. Bright's off the road, slick tyre has put him out of business. He's whacked the wall on the run into the pit lane. That's an awkward spot. He's hit it hard too. Now, that may trigger a safety car. Against two.
Yes.
We've got Todd Kelly around at turn 4. I think he's been touched by Shane Van Gisbergen. He's got it and gathered it, but we've got the safety car on standby. You heard the message in the background on team radio, and it's now gone yellow on the computer timing here. So it'll be a fuel level variation by Chaz Mostert and the Super Cheap Auto Group. Now let's just have a look. Oh, it's a big lock-up for Todd. And then as he's turned in late, Gizzy's got him in the left rear quarter. That's a tricky one.
It's clumsy, isn't it? Both.
Well, it's started with the lock-up for Todd. Because of the partial wet conditions, he's locked it up. Shane's got down there, but he was locked up and couldn't turn. So you can see the inside front of Shane was locked. Here's the onboard. So I reckon you'll find the right front ends up on a little patch of wet here. And that it is, and locks up. Then he turns in. Shane's now got 2 turning and 2 burning. He's full on the brake pedal. He's hoisting left lock on it, but he can't. Chaz Mostert leading the race. This is the reason for the safety car. Jason Bright was one of 2 cars that went out on a Dunlop slick tyre. His teammate Cam Waters got away with it. Unfortunately, Jason didn't. Cam's made profit. And unfortunately for Jason, we saw that sad side of him having to walk back into the lane.
It's strange, but Neil, I can't work out where it's gone, because it looks like he's almost tried to get to the lane somehow, which anyway, it's an unusual spot. I've never seen a car in that spot
that far around.
Yeah,
it's a bit odd. Now Winterbottom's also made gains here too, Mark, and Frosty qualified down in 12th. He's currently sitting in 5th, and they also short fuel him just to buy some track position as well. Means he's got to take more fuel in the second stop, as does Chaz Mostert. So Chaz, he doesn't have much tolerance for looking backwards, does he? Here's the replay of what happened to Jason Bright, and that's pretty heavy contact there, and a long way round the corner, so it's jumped on him. Here's the car of Jason Bright now being recovered, so here's a little bit more of it. There may have been a bit of traffic involved in all this. So Alex Rullo, this is down at turn 2, so this is the first one. So, but we didn't see that initially. We just saw him off the road. So I presumed that it was just slick tyre, wet track equals bad news.
Well, that's the slick tyre, wet track, no grip.
Yeah,
it's
so
right there.
He's go-karted it and flicked it around, got it pointed in the right direction. And I think this was about the point where we joined it earlier. And then this is the second part of the story for him. That's very heavy contact in the right front corner for Jason Bright in the Mega Bulk Fuels entry. And that's a mega hit with the tyre wall down there. Looked like he was on his own. Unusual one. That we've seen many people off the road pretty much in the straight ahead position down at turn 6 over the years.
They wanted to just get it done and deal with it. Sorry, guys, go back. There's Blanchard in the fence at turn 2.
Yeah, sorry, Greg. That was a big moment. He spun over the top with contact. And
that'll trigger a safety car.
And now we're talking safety car. So the timing of what you just explained, Greg, is exactly right. We were just doing that also, but I think one of the...
Take an insurance policy, they can't afford a puncture. And here's what happened to Tim Blanchard. So he's dropped wide at 7, come across the road, nearly got Scott Pye and made contact with the wall and knocked the rear off that car.
So Scott Pye be thinking, oh no, this is going again.
There's with Adrian Burgess.
And as you said, another damaged Brad Jones Racing Commodore. I actually thought there was another car involved in that when I first saw it. but it was Scott Pye just coming up behind. It needed to be hard in the brake. When you're out there in the grass, you have a slow accident. And that has continued to spin. That was so lucky. Needed to be on the brake 150 metres prior. Anyway, that's another car damaged for Brad, which is terrible news. The repair on the back of McLaughlin's car.
Reynolds, who's doing a mighty job, and off goes Holdsworth into the gravel and into the wall. Fortunately, at low speed.
Okay, you've got to continue. So just know how you go, mate.
He's hooked up, reverse and got it off the wall, right beneath the camera platform down there in the straight ahead position at turn 6.
Keep it moving. Keep it moving.
He's actually going back out in his own wheel tracks. Meantime, Lowndes and Whincup continue. Oh, Lee.
No, that's it. She's parked. She's parked. He was trying to do the right thing there by keeping it moving and running along his own wheel tracks that are compacted down. Oh, no, she's done.
So what's happened here? We've got Todd Kelly on the inside. Lee's up on the outside, so he's going to meet the water here as well. So it will have had a fair wriggle there. And then because he's on the left of the road, he hasn't got the same level of stopping power down there because of the amount of water, and then he's got it all clamped up to stop. It makes light contact with the tyre barrier, thankfully. 7. It's the concertina as everybody backs up down there at the hairpin turn 4. Rouleau, big trouble, big damage on the back of that car. He's made huge contact, so Rouleau's in strife again. He fired off in qualifying and shot off the road at turn 5, and between turns 6 and 7 went straight through. Here we go. Now we've got Scott Pye having a crack with Mark Winterbottom. These fellas arguing over 13th and 14th, but Pye's going to be on the wet line here. He's up high. He can't stay with 100% throttle out there or the car will get away. So he's had to yield, flick the throttle off momentarily and sits back in behind Frosty, who was battling to actually get that car stopped and turned at 6.
And that was clever by Scott Pye then, because if he did the same thing as Lee Holdsworth, he would have been off the road. So he moved back onto the dry line. Alex Rouleau gets out of the car.
They already had substantial damage yesterday for both their cars, one of which couldn't take part today with Taz Douglas, and that looks much like the back of Tim Blanchard. Things happened with him, and off the road goes Todd Kelly, high speed. That'll be 6 as well, I presume. Now, I heard Craig Lowndes also pretty animated, and I reckon he lost a little bit of time. So does this trigger another safety car?
I think so.
Can't imagine him getting out of there.
Flag, safety car boards and flags.
Well, he hasn't lost much of a margin to Whincup, and unfortunately nowhere to go for Todd Kelly here.
I wonder what happened there, because he went off.
He went off massively quick.
So that's
I think down at the end at turn 6 at the moment, if you're not perfectly online down there,
it's very slippery.
You're in plenty of trouble.
Here we go.
So Todd got a bad exit for some reason. Maybe he had an issue. Got a bad exit off 4. And that allows Dale Wood and his teammate Simona Di Silvestro to go by.
I reckon there's some brake drama going. I reckon
he's wriggling the car around here and then just trying to figure out what am I dealing with. And then off he goes. It's got a drama.
Yeah.
So it's some sort of a brake drama of some description.
It never looked like pulling up, did it? See the retardation rate versus Moffat there, and yeah, he was never able to turn left. So maybe a steering issue, because he obviously come out of the hairpin going very slowly.
Compresses the field, which throws into further doubt the current order, because people will now have a crack at the restart.
Yeah, and it helps Van Giersbergen
massively.
Packs the field up, so this will help him in his charge towards the front.
He's come up to second if he can hang on to it. He's on the outside. He has hung on to it in the Botlow Racing.
Oh, there's going to be a drama here. There's going to be a drama here. There's a lot of cars off the road. They're all off the road from the first corner, and they were always going to make contact with other cars. Percat, Holdsworth, all trying to dribble back out of the sand trap. Great move by Mark Winterbottom.
So crazy stuff, cold tyres, turn 1. So in fact, it's Coulthard that made the great run down there. He's got a margin on Frosty, and a good one. Lowndes in the wars again. Oh, Todd Kelly, big damage. Both doors down the right-hand side, and it's pushed that guard onto the right.
Last year with Whincup around the outside of McLaughlin, but Winterbottom makes it stick. Beautiful car control, and then off the road. So there's Todd. He's going towards the flag marshal's box. That's Davey Reynolds off the road. That's James Courtney, Lee Holdsworth, Rick Kelly, and Nick Percat. Just watch this again.
So Todd got a helping hand, but at this stage, David's already off.
It's the flag marshal's box.
Ah, that's what clobbered it. So we were looking at all directions here, both sides of the road, and Rick Kelly had to go the long way through the gravel. This is the shot from outside, a little bit hard to understand.
Look at this.
Skittles.
That hit hard.
It did hit hard.
This is James Moffat, I think. So he sneaks down the right. Sorry, it's Garth Tander. He always makes good starts. So he's down around the outside of Will. Now, what you'll see is that when Lee Holdsworth runs a little bit wide at the top there, top of the screen, that puts Todd Kelly off the road. But Lee's also off, so maybe he got escorted at the same time. Look at the contact there. And you're just a passenger. You're in the weeds. You're in wet grass with no control. This is Will Davison. Gets off the line nicely. That's Craig Lowndes just in front. Now, I don't know where Lowndes got caught up. It's James Moffat around the outside. And what you'll see is just up a couple of cars. The car on the far left is Todd Kelly. He's off, and so is Lee Holdsworth. Gee, Slade did a good job to avoid all that, didn't he?
There's so many things going on left and right, it's hard to figure it out. No surprise, the message from race control that what's happened down there at turn 2 is under investigation. This is David Reynolds, Penrite Erebus entry. Remember, they're all on cold tyres and cold brakes. He feeds it a gear to get it through 1. He's got Waters off to his right.
Yeah, well, again, Cam didn't leave much right on the outside there. So, yeah, there's plenty going on, wasn't there? Gee, you don't need to have those scenes after the drama we saw.
Oh, one of the GRM cars, and it's Moffat has fired off down there, and that's going to pick up kilos of mud in the front of it, getting back on it turn 2. Yeah. And it's his teammate that has to carefully clear. Remember, Moffat was a big beneficiary.
Right front tyre's gone. Right front tyre gone on Moffat's car.
So he's lucky to recover that one.
That's the same spot as Van Gisbergen yesterday. There it is.
Hey guys, you can see right there through our camera the tyre that's come off Chaz Mostard's car in very poor condition. It looks like it could be a bit of an issue there. It's obviously come apart on the inside of that tyre and not looking good. 455, he's back on his way. He's got fuel and a new set of tyres, but that one looks a little bit like some of the problems we've already had, unfortunately.
And Murph, just to add to that, I walked in and had a word to Brad Wuscherson, who looks after Cameron Waters. Same tyre off Waters' car, same issue, and it gave no warning, Wuscherson says.
And that was right rear, was it, Rusty?
Yep. Look at this. That's a great save by Van. That is right in behind Van Gisbergen. Great save by Mostert to keep that car on the road over Lukey Heights. Right rear tyre gone. Now check this out. This is Moffat. So this is the same spot. It's punctured already. So it was actually punctured just before he put his foot on the brake. And we've been saying a lot that the new curb at the final corner, one of the aspects that could be leading to some tyre damage. And that's one there that's taken James Moffat on a very, very wild ride at 285 kilometres an hour. Yes. So early tyre failure.
GRM resetting the tyre pressures on the tyres that have gone on this car, and they've actually upped the minimum. We know the minimum pressure is 17 PSI. They had at least 18 PSI in these tyres, trying to find a way to maybe make them last. So plenty of issues, unfortunately, in the lane as James Moffat is about to get going again. No other damage to that car, really, and he's on his way.
That's another tyre failure.
Nick Percat's gone off down here. Thanks for the update, Murph.
Do you think you can get out, Nick?
And Paul Scalzo's just talking to him on the radio there at present, doing his best to get it dragged out. Is it down at turn 3?
3.
Yeah. So that's where Fabian went off yesterday in practice 1. That's
but that's
that looks like something else, doesn't it?
It looks like
a suspension drama. It's actually been another failure there. Hang on, it's got both sides going, so very confusing, that one.
I've never seen that. Here we go. This is fast. It's roughly 250 kilometres an hour. Does it actually make contact with the fence? It does. Yep.
So some of what we've just seen at the front of the car can be secondary damage. There'll be a reason why it's fired off there. Most likely suspect will be the right front. That gravel trap down there's been mighty, hasn't it? That's a relatively recent addition here. Got to say that the way in which this racetrack is presented in pit lane, we've seen some stuff happen. Oh, there's big contact here between Waters and Courtney. James is now buried down there at turn 2, and I think he'll stay there, beached.
That'll be safety car. That'll help some of these guys.
Yeah, mate, just saw that.
So getting in there within 2 pit bays, it means it's a very narrow entry, just to put a full stop on all that. Whincup in the lane, Courtney in the gravel.
Okay, safety car boards and flag, safety car boards and flag, safety car. Just hold momentarily.
So with the direction, with the bulletin that Neil spoke of, with that congestion, it's always the Phillip Island garage layout is very tight. So the bulletin, why did Bright go round again there? Why is that? Why would he do that? Now they can't pass him, so these guys are going to be really affected.
Safety car.
You can be waved by when there's a car in distress.
Yeah, well, but they all backed off because they obviously had to
think about it.
Wait, yeah. So this is the reason for the safety car. There's contact between Courtney and Cam Waters. We'll take you through that in a second. But one of the issues is that when the bulletins come out and the dimension of the garages in terms of the way that the 2 bays were described, it all
but still to serve as she
15 seconds.
15 seconds, I think she is, and so is McLaughlin. And of course, once the field's compressed,
here we go.
Once the field's compressed, then the effect of that 15 seconds gets worse. So
that is a serve up,
and that's turn 11.
So Cam makes a good move now, gets down the inside. They run up to the next corner. Normally you do the crisscross. So James has parked him a little bit wide, and Cam has made contact with the right rear corner and turned him straight around.
Oh, there's big contact here between Waters and Courtney. James is now buried down there at turn.
Finn now needs to do... Oh, there's a big failure down there. That's Percat heavily into the side. I think it was Rulo. So there's...
Seriously?
I'm just going to listen to the radio for a second here.
So that was Nick's voice in the background. So it could well trigger another safety car because of the damage on the front of the Brad Jones Racing Hare and Forbes car. Yep, there it is, safety car.
Scramble, safety car, scramble.
Amazing thing for me in all this, and big damage in the right rear corner of the Repair Management Australia car for the youngest fellow in the field, young Alex Rulo. You know, if you think early when we'd all but written off the notion of Fabian Coulthard coming away with something at the end of this day, he may well get a prize that includes a maximum bonus of points today.
Now, that was just before that.
Is that Frosty's car? Yeah, so looking from Frosty's car, do you see the front brake rotor glowing in the background there as well on Jason Bright's car.
So that's a failure.
Yeah. Okay, now that I understand it better now. So he's had the right front fail at turn 3, can't stop the car, clobbers Alex Rouleau, triggers a safety car.
There it is, you can see the angle. So the right front tyre is locked. So he's had a right front tyre now. Both wheels are locked because we saw that on the car earlier today. And Alex Rouleau is nowhere near to blame for this.
And Frosty was all at sea down there at the hairpin as well in the Botlow car. And he was in a big battle with Jason Bright. Unfortunately for Alex Rouleau, this was potentially going to be the best result of his relatively short Virgin Australia Supercars Championship career. And that, unfortunately, has now come to a grinding halt with the damage to the right rear corner of that car as he limps back to the lane.
Well, he was 11th, wasn't he?
Yeah.
Yeah, so at that point he was in very strong position. Brad Jones looking on.
Who's got a terrible head cold at the moment, and the stress that he's been under since the last event in Tasmania. And remember, they had damage at the Australian Grand Prix.
And risk management for him. Now, this will be a little bit of the tale of what happens. There you go. There's Moffat escorting James Courtney off the road.
That's the top 3 in the run to turn 10 for the final time. And Percat and Courtney lock horns. And James is over and out in the gravel trap. Oh. Courtney on screen. Great strategy that played him back into contention after being last at the end of the first lap. And he's bogged and out of it on the last lap of the race in a brutal exchange with Nick Percat.
I think he's going to let Nick know that he's not that happy.
McLaughlin, Whincup, Coulthard, 1, 2 and 3. In the end, it was 2.4 seconds across the top 3 cars. So here it is in replay. So Nick runs a little wide. James gets down the inside.
Yeah, he was up the inside. Now Nick was turning in to, you watch this, watch the angle. There's road left on the left-hand side as Nick is turning to the right. So we need to see the outside shot again. There was a little bump there, so yes, it was quite aggressive. But from the other angle, you'll see Nick start to move the car across to the right, which turns James to the left. So it always takes 2 to tango in these things. There you go. There's James. He was running Nick as far wide as he could, but Nick was also moving the car to the right. So we'll need to have a look at some onboard vision and have this is the one that's telling. So have a look at the left-hand side of the road and have a look at the steering. Have a look at where the front wheels are pointed now. So as you see right now, he's given a little turn to the right. And that's the one that's unloaded James Courtney. So we'll, I'm sure, from a judicial standpoint, have every view of that covered.
It'll be the data that's telling. They'll be looking at steering angles. They'll be looking at throttle positions. They'll be looking at proximity to the edge of the road. They'll have the data. They'll have the Supercars onboard camera together with our Supercars media cameras as well. There's a judicial camera that carries data, and that'll be something that gets discussed in great detail. But right now...
Hey YouTube, thanks for watching. If you're interested in more content like this, check out our back catalog of videos. We have hours and hours and hours of compilation videos, podcasts, where you'll get news, you'll get my opinion on certain things, which who doesn't want to hear that? Check it out. If you would, like, subscribe, turn on notifications so you don't miss any of our future uploads. We will be making more videos like this one. So, if you're interested, turn on notifications, like, subscribe, the works, and I appreciate it. You guys are awesome. Thank you so much for watching. God bless. Love you. Peace.